Welcome to this course on apologetics. I'm Pastor David at Florida Gardens Baptist Church, and I hope that you will be able to learn a lot that will increase your faith. Maybe you have questions about whether you should believe the Bible, or you would like to learn more how to talk with others in a productive way that points them to how we can know that Christianity is true. So that's what we're going to be looking at. I'm going to briefly introduce apologetics today, and then we're going to have an interesting conversation about how do we know if the earth is flat or spherical shape. And you may wonder, what does that have to do with apologetics? Well, that's what we'll get to later on. So let me begin by just talking about why should we study apologetics? Well, number one, the Bible tells us to. I'm a believer in Christ. If you are, you want to follow what the Bible teaches. And the Bible plainly says in 1 Peter 3:15 that we are always to be ready to give an answer to anyone who asks you for the reason for the hope that you have. And that give an answer, we're supposed to be ready to give an answer. That word in Greek is apologia. It's where we get the word apologetics. And it just simply means that we should be able to explain to people why we believe what we believe so that they can know why they should believe. They don't have to simply be told to believe, well, you should believe because I say so. Well, no, they need to be told why it's true, why it is something they should believe. And this is a biblical command. Number two, Jesus and the apostles did it. We'll look at many examples along the way of how Jesus referred to evidence. The apostles referred to eyewitnesses. They framed certain arguments in a way that showed they're trying to reason with and present a case of why someone should believe. They're not just saying, you should believe. They're giving explanation and reasons. Number three, we want to know why we believe what we believe. I do. I don't want to just go around thinking, well, I guess I'm supposed to believe this, but I have no idea why. I find that it will deepen your faith, strengthen your desire to know more and follow what the Bible teaches when you have a clear understanding why you believe it's true. Four, we want to love God with all our mind. That's what Jesus says is the greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. And so we're going to learn things about science and learn things about history, and we're going to study some things that maybe sound somewhat academic compared to typical Bible studies, but this is part of loving God with our mind. Philosophy, the love of wisdom, is a biblical concept. God has given us our minds and the ability to reason and think, and that's for a reason, and we want to devote that to pursuing God. Number five, we want to see other people believe. I do. And apologetics, no matter how much you know, no matter how good you are at presenting information about the truth of the Bible, you're never going to make someone believe. However, you can, through apologetics, remove important or very difficult obstacles that prevent people from considering Jesus, that prevent people from taking seriously His claims. Apologetics can remove those obstacles so that someone can more seriously consider the claims of Christ and perhaps then believe in Him. So it's an important part of evangelism and making God's truth known. All right, what is apologetics? I've already told you it's based on the Greek word apologia, to give an answer or a reasonable defense of the Christian faith, but it can include different things. Number one, answering objections to the Christian faith. When someone says, how can you believe the Bible's true when? And they give some kind of objection. Being able to give an answer to those things would be one part of apologetics. Number two, making a positive case for the Christian faith. We're going to spend a lot of time on this one in this course because you can't ever learn all the objections. No matter how many answers you learn to objections, someone's always going to come up with some new objection. We'll look at some of the key ones, but I'd rather spend a little more time helping you understand how to explain why we believe. What is the evidence? What is the case? And if you understand this really well, it will guide you into how to respond to different objections, no matter what they may be. Number three, apologetics can include our own objections as Christians, objecting to competing faith claims. In other words, we can not only be on the defensive all the time and answer arguments against Christianity, or make a positive case for the Christian faith, but we can also point out problems, fallacies, contradictions, lack of evidence in other religions and other beliefs, like atheism, Islam, whatever it may be, because that's part of making a positive case for Christianity, is saying Christianity is the best answer to all the data we have, all the information that's out there. Number 4, apologetics includes developing an interest in the faith. This is an important one. We don't often think of this in apologetics. We think of, telling people why Christianity is true. But increasingly in our culture, people don't care if Christianity is true. And overcoming just indifference to the whole topic about the Bible, Jesus, Christianity, that's one of the greatest obstacles to people hearing the gospel or taking it seriously. So anything we can do to develop an interest doesn't have to necessarily do with proving that it's true or proving that another belief system is false, but just getting people to want to engage through storytelling, through connecting the Christian message with popular culture, movies, the latest, most popular song. All these kinds of things and many more are part of apologetics because they're developing an interest in the Christian faith, wanting to know more about it. All right, what are we going to study in this course? Well, one, we're going to study how to know stuff. And if you don't know what know means, or how it is that you know basic facts about anything, if you haven't given careful consideration to how do we know certain things are true and other things are not true, it's going to be very difficult to understand what we're doing when we talk about why we know Christianity is true. And so I find this to be really important to start off with. We're going to spend time with this today in just a moment. Another thing we'll learn is the information you need. There will be a lot of information to build a case for the faith. And you may not get it all watching these videos one time. It takes a little bit of time. I recommend some books in the class notes. By the way, you can get the class notes if you email me, Pastor David, all one word, Pastor David at gofgbc.org. Ask me for the apologetics notes, and I'll send you a copy. There's some recommended reading in there, and I would encourage you to maybe watch the videos, go over your notes, do some extra reading in order to really learn this material. Number 3, we'll focus on apologetic skills. We're not just going to look at the information that's out there that's relevant, but how to present that information. How to navigate your way through a conversation where it doesn't turn into yelling, where it's actually productive, where you can be really effective in getting the information out there. We're going to focus a lot on these kinds of skills. All right, so I told you we would look at this question. So what is the shape of the earth? Is it flat or is it spherical? Now I'm guessing that you almost certainly, there may be some exception out there, but if you're watching this, I'm guessing you say, well, obviously it's spherical. Well, how do you know that? Now, I'll just tell you up front, I believe the earth is spherical too, but I think we need to kind of think through, what does it mean to say, I know the earth is spherical? Because we've got to really get a good understanding of that before we can talk about how we know Christianity is true. So let me just point out some things. Let me sort of argue with you. Let me take the flat earth position, if you will, and see how we can respond. Because someone who believes in a flat earth, and there are many people out there, they will make a number of pretty good sounding arguments. All right, so for instance, we could say the whole idea of people standing upside down on the other side of the earth is absurd. This idea that at this very moment there are people with their feet above their heads standing, on the opposite side of the earth below me, that doesn't make any sense. Nor does the idea that the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour right now. I'm going around the earth on a spinning ball. I'm traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm traveling around the sun at some 60,000 miles an hour through space, and I don't feel it. I don't think I'm moving like that. What would give anyone the idea that that's actually happening? How would that work? How would we not fall off? How would the atmosphere travel with us? It raises all kinds of questions. How is any of this possible? The simplest answer, what people used to just assume by using common sense and reason, is that the earth is basically flat, and that things on top of the earth go down when they fall. There's nothing really more complicated than that. The earth basically looks like this. This is just an artist's rendition of how some people really believe in a flat earth. It's not entirely like a flat earth model, but notice the sun, the moon are all only a few thousand miles above the earth's surface. They believe the sun and moon are about 32 miles across. They're both the same size, and they spin around over the top of the surface of the earth, and at some points they light up one part of the earth, at times others. That's where we get night and day from. And this just makes a whole lot more sense to view the world this way. Now, of course, you may be thinking, but wait a minute. And you have all kinds of evidence in your mind. No, we know the earth is actually spherical, and we can respond to all of the objections that you're making. We can explain how it is that the earth is a sphere and people can be standing upside down, if you will, on the other side of the earth from us. It's gravity. And you can explain that gravity is this force that pulls us towards mass, and the earth has a lot of mass, and so we're pulled towards it. And so it only feels like we're always standing upright, even though we might be anywhere around the globe. But that can account for or explain why we always feel like we're upright even though we're spinning around the globe. Well, someone who believes in a flat earth can simply respond this way. Oh, you believe in gravity. Gravity is something that was made up about 400 or 500 years ago by Newton, who is a Mason, who is part of this conspiracy to convince everyone in the world this crazy idea that the earth is actually round. And in order to explain this objection that people are going to immediately have, how could the earth be round? How could people be standing on the bottom side of it? Newton developed this idea of gravity in order to try to convince people that the earth is round. But it's all part of a conspiracy. It's not true. Okay, well, how could we respond to that kind of argument? Well, we could present other arguments. We could say, well, when I fly high up in an airplane and I look out the window, I can see that the earth seems kind of curved shaped. It has a curve to it. That's because I'm looking at one part of the earth, and it has a curve to it because if I looked all the way around, the whole world has that round shape to it. Well, no, you just think you see the curvature of the earth. In actuality, that's caused by the way that the window in the airplane is curved. And it just makes everything outside the window look curved. But really, you can go high up and the earth looks flat. It does. It looks flat. There is no curvature of the earth because the earth really is flat. All right, well, you could present other information. You could say, well, look at all the pictures that NASA has, right? They have gone out into space. They take pictures. The Earth is clearly a sphere. The International Space Station regularly, I think about every 90 minutes, makes a trip around the Earth. We have video of it. People have walked on the moon and looked back at the sphere of the Earth. We have all this video and photographic evidence that the Earth is round. To which the flat earther can simply respond, oh, so you believe all those pictures and videos from NASA. See, they're part of the conspiracy. They're the leading group that is, you can make videos and you can make pictures and you can doctor just about anything you want. And this is all part of trying to convince people that the earth is round. But in reality, it's flat. It's all about gaining control over our minds, making us trust in this elite group of scientists, and looking to them as the ones who have all the answers. But it's not true. Common sense tells us that the earth is flat. Think of it this way. If you believed your whole life that the earth is flat, you always assumed the earth is flat, and you went about doing all your activities without any question that the earth is flat, and everyone around you believed the earth is flat, and I were to come up to you and tell you, you know what? The earth isn't flat. The earth is actually a sphere. We're spinning around on that sphere. We're traveling at 1,000 miles an hour right now, around and around on this earth. Sometimes we're on the bottom of the earth, standing upside down, and we're also spinning around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour through empty space, traveling around the sun. It's not that the sun rises and sets, it's that we're spinning and that we're going around the sun. You would look at me like I'm crazy. And even though I might over time make up videos, make up pictures, make up a thing called gravity, what reason do you have to believe me? And this all comes down to this question, how do we really know this isn't true? And I'll tell you personally, I don't know that the earth is shaped as a sphere in the sense of having personally experienced it as a sphere or personally seen it as a sphere. I haven't gone into space and continuously from the International Space Station looked down at the earth as I've traveled around it. So I don't have that kind of visual confirmation. And I doubt you do either. All of us, I've never been in a plane and traveled all the way around the earth on a flight around the earth on a plane. And so I don't have that kind of knowledge that the earth is round. Even if I traveled on a plane around the earth, I still wouldn't know for sure that the pilot hadn't tricked me. And we had actually flown kind of in a pattern around the earth like this, but hadn't actually gone around the sphere of the earth. I wouldn't really have a way of knowing for sure. Even if I went into outer space and traveled around the earth in the International Space Station and watched it the whole time, a flat earther could still say, no, you didn't actually go into space. NASA has all kinds of spinning machines that could simulate and make you feel like you went up in a rocket ship into space, and they showed a video that played in the window you were looking out. You thought you were looking through a window at space. Really, you were watching a movie NASA made. You didn't really go around the earth, and I wouldn't really have a way of proving them wrong. So none of us know that the earth is round in this sort of absolute sense that there is no argument someone could come back with, no way that someone could prove that the earth is round. Yes. It can't be proven absolutely in that sense. I can't know from this sort of my own personal omniscient knowledge that the earth is round. But I know that the earth is round. Not in this philosophical absolute sense, which I'm going to say pretty much doesn't exist for anything. It's not what we mean by knowing. It's not how we use the word know in our day-to-day life. And this is important because I think Christians often try to present the case for God, the case for Christianity, as if I've got to prove that it's true. And really, you can't prove anything in an absolute sense. An atheist can always answer any amount of evidence you present and say, but what about this? This could explain what you're saying. And they're right. There could be an infinite number of explanations for any of the observations or data we make. Just like you can explain away any of the evidence that the earth is round, you can always come up with something to say, no, the earth is flat. But the question is it reasonable to think the earth is flat? Is it the kind of thinking that would lead you to conclude the earth is flat that you use to make all the other kinds of decisions in your life on a daily basis? No, it's not reasonable. The reason I believe the earth is round is because at some level, even though I don't have this personal knowledge of its roundness, I do know that countless textbooks have taught it, that the theories that explain how it works make sense when you study them and look into them, that the pictures and videos are out there, and to deny the roundness of the earth means I have to believe that there are all these people, thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that know that the earth is flat and are all involved in this massive conspiracy to convince me that the earth is round, even when they know it's not true. And not only are all these people involved in this conspiracy, but people living through centuries of time have all been part of this conspiracy. And the question I have to ask is, what is their motive? And in my personal experience in life, if there isn't some kind of great motive, no kind of conspiracy like that is going to last for very long at all, let alone centuries. That's the part that doesn't make any sense. All these different kinds of people from different religions, from different walks of life, different careers, from airplane pilots to astronauts to scientists to all sorts of people are all working together across the globe, across centuries to maintain that the earth is round, even though they know it's not true. That doesn't fit with anything I know to be true about this earth from my own personal experience and working with people and knowing people and seeing how things work. And so, yeah, I don't personally know the earth is round from my own observation, but I trust that the earth is round. I know the earth is round. I don't have any doubt about it. It's not like I'm 99% sure the earth is round. No, I'm 100% sure the earth is round. I know it to be true. It's an established fact. Could a flat earther engage me and say, oh, well, here's another explanation for all that data? Sure. But that's not how I live my life. I don't operate on or believe things just because there could be some conceivable way that they could be true. No, I believe where the evidence points. So let me make some observations about how we know things. First, let's just talk about how do we know anything is true. Some things are true. By the way, if I have something underlined up here, it's because that is a blank in the notes. So again, you can get the notes and follow along and fill in the blanks as we go through these statements. Some things are true and we can know truth. I believe that. It's not that, and some people today will say there is no truth or we can't know truth. But if we can know anything at all, we have to start there, that there is at least something we can know that is truth. And so this is why we can know this. Let's say that someone says there is no truth. They make that claim, there is no truth. Or they make the claim, we cannot know truth. Well, I can simply ask the question, how do we know that those statements are true? How do you know that it's true that there is no truth? You see, if this is a true statement, then at least this statement is true. There is no truth. And if this statement is true, then there is at least something that's true, and that would be a contradiction because the statement is there is no truth. So this statement can't be true. In other words, it's a self-defeating statement. You cannot make a truth claim that there is no truth. You cannot say that you know that there is no way that we can know truth, because then you're claiming to know truth. It's a self-defeating statement. Some things have to be true. All right? One thing that I can know for true, just one example, is I know with certainty that I exist. I exist. Maybe the world doesn't exist. Maybe it's all some kind of hallucination. Maybe I'm the only person in the world that exists and everyone else is just some kind of, it's some program that's being played in my mind and I'm the only real person. But I can at least know that I exist. Because if I question that, if I say, maybe I don't exist, well, then the question I have to ask is, if I doubt my own existence, who is the one doing the doubting? Who is doubting my existence when I say I don't know if I exist? There has to be something there doubting the existence of me in order for me to doubt my existence. And so either way, any way you look at it, I have to exist. This is just one example. This is what Descartes, a philosopher, is famous for saying, I think, therefore I am. There's got to be some me there that's thinking about this question. So I know that I exist, so some truth exists. That's the whole point of this. But basically, nothing else is philosophically certain. And this is a statement that might jar you a little bit, might make you a little uncomfortable. What do you mean nothing else is certain? Well, what I mean is pretty much anything else that we say, we could come up with we could conceive of some other explanation for the evidence. We can't come up with any other explanation for this. But anything else, we could come up with something that explains it. This shouldn't cause us a problem. We all know this to be true. We all know at some level that there could be some other explanation for any number of our beliefs, and yet it doesn't bother us. We still keep on believing certain things because, like I know the earth is round, and I know 100%, I have no doubt in my mind Even though someone could propose a flat earth and explain all the evidence in various ways, it doesn't deter me from believing that the earth is a sphere. The same thing is going to be true when we talk about Christianity. All right? An atheist may come up with an explanation for all the data that I present showing how Christianity is true. That doesn't mean that I should doubt Christianity. It just means that they're making sort of a silly reasoning, going about a silly process of trying to hold on stubbornly to a belief that doesn't have support. And I want to believe where the evidence points. I want to believe what has an overwhelming case for it. So we'll kind of break that down more as we go through the course. I want to say, but we all know certain things are true. We all know. Because we live our lives assuming things are true. No matter how much someone might say, well, I doubt all things other than I exist. I'm not sure. You don't go day to day in your life saying, I don't know if there's anything out there but me. No, you have relationships, you shop at the store, you eat food, everything you do, you assume that there's this real world out there that you're interacting with. Why? You know it's true. Maybe not with this sort of silly philosophical certainty. In other words, philosophical certainty, I think, is just an impractical, unreasonable standard to try to pursue when we're talking about, do I know something? Because we all act and behave as if there is a true real world around us, and we have no reason not to. Some of those assumptions that we make are reasonable assumptions. We all make assumptions about the world around us. Some of them are reasonable, some are suspect. Sometimes we do believe things that later on we find out aren't true. Sometimes we believe that because a car mechanic who is an expert in cars, and I don't know anything about cars, he tells me I need to get something fixed and pay him lots of money, I might trust him only later on to find out that I didn't really need that replaced and I wasted money. So it is true that some of our assumptions are reasonable, but not always. And the same thing's going to be true when we talk about debates between Christians and other religions, is how do we know if our assumptions are based on reasonable evidence and they really are true versus maybe I'm deceived. And I think that as we go through, we'll see how all the arguments against Christianity fall into this category of they're based on assumptions that you could be gullible, you could be deceived. There's not any real reason to believe those things. But Christianity holds up as a true, reasonable faith, the only reasonable faith, and not only when I say reasonable, not just sort of more reasonable than others, but the one that really perfectly explains all the data that we have. We believe something is true when it offers the best explanation of all the data that we have. The best explanation for all the data that we have about the shape of the earth, from what pilots report to what NASA shows us in videos and pictures. The best explanation is that the earth is indeed round. Now, there are other explanations. You could say there's this big conspiracy to deceive us, but that there's so much to try to explain, there's so much that contradicts our common experience in life that's by far not the best explanation. It's just a crazy explanation. So we believe something is true, whatever it is, if it is the best explanation of all the data that we have. All right, so that's where I'm going to end this week. You can pick up video 2 in this series and continue with us. I hope this is beneficial. If you have any questions, things you have doubts about, things you want me to address, please feel free to email me. Again, Pastor David at gofgbc.com.